Hey, buddy. How's it going there, champ? You fell for it again, huh? Well, Josh Allen, he did his best, though, didn't he? You still like Josh Allen, don't you? You looking forward to next year? No. You, hey. Do you want to go see Crippled Bo Nix? You want to go see Crippled Bo Nix? Ah, yeah, we'll go see Crippled Bo Nix. Dave, let's start the show, buddy. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, now it's Too Late with Alan Mosley.
The lights seem brighter to me for some reason. What does that mean? Is that a getting older thing that the lights are brighter? You know what I don't know.
Could be a thing.
I don't know. Guys, welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by the number one producer in late night. It's Dave Wilimowski. Dave! Dave, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Hanging in there.
Yeah?
Spirits are up. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. I was thinking about you this past weekend.
Yeah,
I
move on quick. It's not my first rodeo.
No, a Bills fan, it certainly is not. Are you dusting off your resume? You going to be the new head coach of the Bills, Dave?
Oh, I don't know about that. I watch those guys work, and I don't know how to do that. No.
See,
it's wild times.
You say that, but here's the thing. I'm immensely confident that I could, for at least 1 year, be a head coach or a GM of one of these teams. And then when they fire me after one season, then I'll probably have made enough money between that and my contract buyout to be set. And then they can...
Yeah, you're all set.
And then I get to release my statement to the media saying, I've enjoyed my time in Buffalo. I wish everyone well and the team. Yeah. But it's another year. So I tell people all the time, look, when you get to this part of the season, it's actually better when your team gets eliminated, because then that way you can just enjoy watching the rest of the games. No stress. You're not worried about anything.
I signed up for more overtime. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Weekend hours. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Well, moving on to overtime, I want to talk a little bit here about an article that I wrote this week that is going to be about someone that I know a lot of our viewers are going to be familiar with. It's the latest in my continuing series on influential figures. That's right. This Monday was the birthday of Lysander Spooner. Boy, happy birthday, Lysander. I think he'd be, 220 something years old. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Lysander Spooner. On January 19th, 1808, Lysander Spooner entered a world in which slavery, bureaucracy, and government monopolies defined the law. Now, he was born near Athol, Massachusetts, and he grew up on a farm with parents who refused to surrender to prevailing conventions. His father, Asa, that's a good strong name, by the way, Asa.
Wow.
Asa was an independent farmer, and his mother, Dolly, nurtured a son who would one day challenge both church and state. He later recalled his mother as one of the kindest of mothers. That's nice. A woman who rejoiced that his anti-slavery treatise would do much good. When he died in 1887, Spooner was largely forgotten by the mainstream, yet his work as an abolitionist, an entrepreneur, a lawyer, an essayist, a natural rights theorist, a pamphleteer, and a political philosopher left an indelible mark on libertarian thought. See, this is how you can tell he's a libertarian, is that he had a whole bunch of different jobs. You know, his resume's too long. You know what I mean?
Just to make ends meet. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a thing or two about that. Spooner's early years illustrate a pattern of resistance to entrenched authority. Bound by an agreement to remain on the family farm until he turned 25. 25. Are your kids bound, Dave, to stay with you until they're 25?
No.
Oh, okay.
Get them out before then. Yeah.
All right. He nonetheless studied classical languages, taught school, and clerked at the Worcester Office of Deeds. When he read law in 1833 under John Davis and Charles Allen, he confronted a Massachusetts statute requiring non-college graduates to apprentice for 5 years. Viewing the rule as protectionist, he printed business cards advertising himself as a lawyer and petitioned the legislature for repeal. It's Better Call Saul right here. With Davis's support of the statute fell, and he was admitted to the bar in 1836. He soon moved west for a real estate venture, only to be ruined by the Panic of 1837, after which he drifted back to Athol and then to New York and Boston. Throughout his life, he remained an outsider and a bachelor. Biographer Charles Shively described him as a gruff and impatient man, with hypocrisy yet admired for his uncompromising moral clarity. Now, although he trained as a lawyer, Spooner rejected many professional norms. Imagine that, the anarchist is rejecting professional norms. He wrote deist tracts denouncing supernatural authority and condemned licensing rules and state charters as protections for privilege. This tension between personal independence and institutional hierarchy would frame his later battles. All right, time to get to the good stuff.
Ooh.
In the 1840s, postage rates were high, nearly 18 3/4 cents to send a letter from Baltimore to New York, and lucrative contracts were riddled with political favoritism. That was high then. Dave.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Private carriers secretly transported about a third of all mail. But Spooner, who regarded the postal monopoly as an economic injustice and a constitutional usurpation, yes, refused to operate underground. On January 11th, 1844, he wrote to the Postmaster General, Charles Wycliffe, announcing that he would establish a private mail from Boston to Baltimore and would be ready to answer any lawsuit. His advertisement proclaimed that the American Letter Mail Company would agitate and test the right of free competition. Within weeks, the ALMC offices were opened in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and delivering mail daily and selling stamps for 5 cents. Now, contemporary reports noted that the Articles of Confederation had given Congress the, quote, sole and exclusive right to establish post offices. But the Constitution omitted that exclusivity. The public embraced the cheaper service. Spooner's pamphlets argued that congressional postal power no more implied a monopoly than its power to borrow money implied exclusive rights to finance. Now, you'll be shocked to hear this. Congress defended its monopoly by threatening railroads and steamships that carried ALMC letters and prosecuting Spooner's agents. Each letter constituted a separate offense, enabling prosecutors to burden him with legal fees. A court eventually held that railroads were not liable for passengers carrying letters, yet the pressure did take its toll. By March 1845, Congress fixed postage at 5 cents within 300 miles, and the post office adopted private innovations such as prepayment with stamps. Postal deficits quickly turned to surpluses. The ALMC closed in 1851, but its brief existence forced a dramatic reduction in rates and earned Spooner the title the father of cheap postage in America. God, I want to be known as the father of cheap something in America.
Yeah.
I don't know what that something's going to be, but we're gonna figure it out.
Oh, man.
Now, Spooner's deepest passion was the abolition of slavery. Raised by abolitionist parents, he found it impossible to reconcile human bondage with natural law. His 1845 treatise, The Unconstitutionality of Slavery, challenged William Lloyd Garrison's claim that the Constitution was a pro-slavery document. He argued that law must conform to natural justice and that any statute or compact that violates natural rights is void. Because the Constitution never uses the words slave or slavery, and because English common law and colonial charters did not authorize slavery, there was no lawful basis for the institution. He invoked Lord Mansfield's Somerset decision to show that slavery required explicit positive law and insisted that tolerating wrongdoing does not make it lawful. Now, Spooner also emphasized that each person has an inalienable right to so much personal liberty as he will use without encroaching upon the equal rights of others. Your liberty goes where someone else's liberty stops. Liberty derives from human nature and cannot be legislated away. Therefore, he maintained that slaveholders' property claims were void and fugitive slaves were entitled to resist. In another treatise, A Defense of Fugitive Slaves in 1850, he urged the jurors to acquit those who had aided runaways and argued that jurors have both a right and a duty to judge the justice of the law. You ever heard of jury nullification? His later treatise, Trial by Jury, in 1852, extended this claim, contending that juries must be free to assess both facts and law to nullify unjust statutes. Spooner's constitutionalism split the abolitionist movement. The Liberty Party embraced his thesis, while Garrisonians excoriated him for legitimizing the Constitution. Frederick Douglass later described the treatise as tremendously attractive and credited it with influencing his own shift to an anti-slavery constitutional reading. Now, I know that might come as a shock to some people who are listeners, because you have a lot of people on social media that like to cherry pick a handful of quotes from Lysander Spooner, raising him up as this paragon of anti-constitutional thought. This could not be further from the truth. Lysander Spooner was a strict constitutionalist, and his constitutional theory inspired many other great authors. Now, Spooner devoted his later life to articulating the philosophical foundations of liberty. Natural Law, or the Science of Justice, 1882, defines justice as the science of mine and thine, encompassing rights of person and property and providing only basis for peace. Justice tells each person what he may or may not do without infringing another's rights. It requires everyone repay their debts, return stolen property, make restitution for injuries, and abstain from theft, robbery, arson, murder, or any other crime. Positive law must conform to these natural principles, or it is mere force. The treatise laments that throughout history, bands of robbers have joined together to create governments that enslave the people and keep one class in subordination to another. Yeah. Now, his skepticism reached its zenith in the essay that everyone's going to have heard of. There's the No Treason Essays, 1867 to 1870. Written in the aftermath of the Civil War, he argued that the Constitution had no inherent authority because it is a contract to which no living person has consented. And without voluntary consent, taxation and conscription are robbery and slavery. In a famous passage, he likened government to a highwayman who steals from you at gunpoint and then pretends to protect you. He concluded that individuals have the right to withdraw allegiance and to form voluntary associations, including secessionist communities. Spooner also applied his natural law logic to economics and morals. In Poverty, Its Illegal Causes and Legal Cure, 1846, he blamed poverty on state-granted privileges, monopolies, and banking charters that concentrate wealth. He denounced taxation without consent and the government's monopoly of money as robbery and advocated free banking based on contracts. In 1875, his pamphlet Vices Are Not Crimes was written for a temperance reformer's book, but became an enduring libertarian classic. George H. Smith recounts that Spooner listed gluttony, drunkenness, prostitution, gambling, prize fighting, tobacco chewing, smoking and snuffing, and opium eating, corset wearing, idleness, waste of property, avarice, hypocrisy, etc., as activities that may be vices, but are not crimes because they harm only the actor. That's all the good stuff. Laws punishing vices, he argued, stripped individuals of their natural right to pursue happiness by the use of their own property. By drawing a bright line between vice and crime, Spooner sought to protect peaceful autonomy from moralistic legislation. Spooner's writings were largely ignored in his day, and he eked out a living from small law cases and pamphleteering. After the Civil War, he grew disillusioned with what he saw as the expanding power of the federal government. Yet in the 20th century, his ideas resurfaced in libertarian thought. Now, economist Murray Rothbard hailed his portrayal of the state as a robber band as perhaps the, quote, most devastating ever written. And legal theorist Randy Barnett argues that Spooner deserves a place of honor for the brilliance with which he defended his principles. Helen Knowles notes that he never strayed from his libertarian commitments. His ideas continued to inspire jury nullification activists, critics of monetary monopolies, and those advocating postal privatization, secession, and constitutionally limited government. At a personal level, he remained an outsider. He lived for years in a small Boston apartment near the Athenaeum, writing prolifically, and he died alone in 1887. He never called himself an anarchist, yet historians now place him within the American individualist tradition. Lysander Spooner's life was a relentless confrontation with every institution that claimed arbitrary authority. From his farm boy rebellion against bar licensing laws to his entrepreneurial assault on the postal monopoly, from his constitutional demolition of slavery to his philosophical repudiation of social contracts, he consistently applied a single measure. Justice is grounded in natural rights, not in the degree of politicians. He demanded that individuals judge law by whether it protects or violates the equal freedom of all, and he refused to accept that wrongs become right through majority vote or custom. In celebrating his birthday, we recall a man who not only spoke but acted upon his convictions, illustrating that moral courage and intellectual clarity can challenge even the most entrenched systems. His legacy endures in every movement that seeks to secure liberty through principle rather than power. And his writings remind us that the freedom is not a gift from government, but an inherent right that no government can legitimately take away. And I want to end, before we move on, with one last little comment. If I said anything in that little short essay there, biographical of Lysander Spooner's life to celebrate his birthday, it might have been that you heard that actually he was a strict constitutionalist, and he used the Constitution. He applied it principally to seek positive change. So for all of those libertarian friends that you have on social media, that every single time you quote anything, they say things like "my Constitution" and "why don't you need to read Spooner?" You have my permission to reply back, "Okay, I will, but you first." Guys, we're going to be back for the next segment of It's Too Late, right after this commercial break. Don't go away. Wow. Yeah. You all right? You doing okay? That sounded, I don't know. It sounded strained. Yeah.
I don't know. Crashing quick.
Okay. All right. Whoa, okay. Well, we'll get the show on the road then.
Got
boy, actually, I had to take a little extra sip. That's a lot of.
Oh yeah.
A lot of talking. I've learned.
What a monologue.
I've learned recently by doing some of these that there's a reason why speeches should only be like a few minutes. A, because people just don't want to hear someone talk for that long, and two, because it's like get a little bit of that going on. With that said, we're going to do it again. We're going to talk about another thing in the news. Oh my God. I have written so much in the past week for antiwar.com about this whole business with Donald Trump's announcement of a Gaza Board of Peace. Have you seen some of this stuff that I've been writing? Right, an alleged Board of Peace announced by Donald Trump with an initial list of names and then an invitation to several different nations to come on board and be a part of this project for lasting peace in the Middle East, particularly with Gaza. Now, as we talk about the Trump announcement of his Gaza Board of Peace, who is that little guy? It looks like he's got a friend there. That's interesting.
Looks familiar.
The thing is that there's an initial list of invitees, and then it's opened up to countries around the world. And if you're a little bit skeptical of who some of these invites are going out to, boy, you have no idea. You have no idea how bad it's going to get. On January 16th, the Trump administration unveiled a new body to oversee Gaza's reconstruction and governance. The so-called Board of Peace that Trump promised would guide a technocratic committee through the next phase of the faux ceasefire and help rebuild a territory devastated by nearly 2 years of war. The board's founding members include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, real estate developer turned special envoy Steve Witkoff, and then a handful of others: private equity executive Mark Rowan, World Bank President Ajay Banga, and U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor Robert Gabriel round out the list. These appointees are tasked with overseeing governance, capacity building, regional relations, reconstruction, large-scale funding, and yet you have even others. Bulgarian diplomat Nikolai Mlenenov, boy, there's no way I said that right, a former UN official, will serve as the highest representative. He's from Bulgaria. Who cares? Now, supporters describe the arrangement as a pragmatic interim solution, but critics see something far more sinister. Experts contend that the plan resembles a colonial administration, liking it to imperialism masquerading as a peace process, and noting that it is regrettably reminiscent of colonial practices. Overseeing an occupied territory through an international board chaired by the very powerful that funds the war with no Palestinian representation whatsoever sounds less like self-determination than it does tyranny. Now, what makes the Board of Peace truly alarming is not only its structure, but its personnel. Most of the appointees have records that make a mockery of impartiality in peace. They represent governments and industries that have bankrolled and executed wars across the Middle East. Let's talk about a few of these members. We're going to start off with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Remember that word, Tony Blair. He's the Iraq War's evangelist, along with George W. Bush. Yeah, he's pictured with that same guy. Who's that guy? Tony Blair, Britain's prime minister during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, is widely condemned for his role. He is considered a war criminal in much of the Arab world. Many Palestinians regard his inclusion as ridiculous and toxic, while one British lawmaker called it outrageous. Blair's tenure as the quartet's Middle East envoy produced little progress, and he is seen as biased towards Israel. Gazans view his appointment by the country that invaded Iraq as an insult. Blair's unsuitability runs deeper than personal reputation. In early 2025, he joined Israeli and American strategists in developing the war plan for Gaza and was touted as a potential governor general of the territory. Trump himself mused about ethnic cleansing and a glitzy Gaza Riviera, an idea that Blair did not reject. At the same time, Israel was flattening Gaza City and starving its residents. Far from acting as a neutral mediator, Blair has long aligned himself with the war on terror, promoting policies that entrench occupation and ignore Palestinian rights. But it keeps getting better. Let's talk about Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. It's nepotism and real estate fantasies. I'm starting to see a theme here. Yeah. Jared Kushner's 2019 deal of the century was widely boycotted and dismissed by Palestinians as a $50 billion bribe because it ignored the occupation and offered inducements to bury refugees' rights. Although the plan touted huge investment figures, most of the money would have gone to regional governments and private investors, with the Palestinian share arriving as loans and conditional on them surrendering claims to their own homes. Recognizing this, Palestinian leaders boycotted the Manama workshop designed to promote the deal. Kushner's close relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his role in moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem underscored the plan's pro-Israel bias. But there's even more. Let's talk a moment about one Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Oh, come on.
Oh,
Not
wow.
a
This guy gets around.
Warhawk turned diplomat. That's right. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has consistently echoed Israel's war aims. During a 2025 visit to Jerusalem, he vowed to destroy Hamas and refused to discuss a ceasefire. He warned allies that recognizing a Palestinian state would make peace less likely and insists Gaza has no future until Hamas is eliminated. Such hawkish rhetoric mirrors Israel's agenda rather than that of an impartial diplomat. Rubio's wider worldview is equally belligerent. He argues that violence in the region stems from Iran's ambitions, advocates maximum pressure sanctions, and rejects re-entry into the nuclear deal. He labels Hezbollah a full-blown agent of Iran, calls wiping out its leadership and the neighborhoods around it as a, quote, service to humanity, and champions regime change. I thought we weren't doing regime change anymore. His bellicosity is matched by his donors. He's taken millions of dollars from pro-Israel groups and hundreds of thousands from U.S. weapons industry. Little wonder he sees war rather than diplomacy as the solution. But let's, you know what? Let's talk about one more. How about that deputy fella from the NSA, Steve Witkoff? Let's all oh, Jesus Christ. No! No! Not again! Steve Witkoff is a luxury real estate developer with no diplomatic experience at all. He and Trump secured a $2 billion investment from Abu Dhabi for their private cryptocurrency venture, a deal that has raised red flags among ethics officials because federal officers may not accept payments from foreign governments. Somebody should have told them that. Witkoff still holds a stake in the firm and has yet to divest. Former ethics advisors note that reaping profits from an official post appears to violate both the Emoluments Clause and Office of Government Ethics regulations. None of this has stopped him from acting as a peace envoy, underscoring how the board rewards business ties and loyalty rather than impartiality or expertise. Now, his foray into diplomacy has been equally troubled. In Gaza, he misjudged Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and failed to extend or renew a ceasefire. In Ukraine and Iran, he offered concessions to Russia and Tehran only to walk them back amid criticism, showing a lack of grasp over complex regional dynamics. He has acknowledged that he entered the role naive and has been, quote, boning up on diplomacy by reading books and watching documentaries. And that's what you want to hear from the guy that you've already hired for the job is, whoa, I better look into this.
Give me the clip notes.
Entrusting Gaza's reconstruction to a developer still learning on the job illustrates the board's priorities. Personal connections and profit trump the qualifications needed to secure a just and lasting peace. Now, a couple of other things I wanted to talk about this whole Board of Peace nonsense is, for one, how has it been received from a lot of the other countries around the world? Well, you have the countries in Europe and the Middle East and in Asia and Africa and world, and then you have countries that have jumped on board and countries that haven't. And why would they and why would they not? A fractious globe has debated over the newly proposed Gaza Board of Peace, and that debate has intensified as countries are declaring whether or not they're going to participate in this U.S.-led body that proponents say could oversee Gaza's post-war reconstruction. The problem is that you already have a sharp split over involvement. Middle Eastern governments are lining up to join, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reversed an earlier refusal to participate, agreeing to take Israel's seat. But a number of European powers have declined. French, Scandinavian, and other Western European governments have been among the most vocal in declining the invitation, citing concerns about the board's mandate, structure, and potential to undercut established international institutions. France, Norway, Sweden, and Slovenia have announced that they will not join at this time, rejecting both the board's expanded ambition beyond Gaza and the requirement, listen to this, Trump has announced that there is to be a permanent member of the board and not just a temporary 2-year member. Each state party must contribute roughly $1 billion for permanent membership status. That's right, Donald Trump is charging a $1 billion membership fee to join his Gaza Board of Peace. By the way, when France initially declined, specifically saying that they were not going to be charged a fee to join a diplomatic organization, Trump responded by threatening 200% tariffs on French wine. If you're curious about just how petty he is. Now, to move on from that, a number of other European states have not yet committed. Britain, Germany, Italy, and the executive arm of the EU have each acknowledged that they've received invitations, but they stopped short of agreeing to join. Which is obviously leaving their position open amid domestic debate over the board's purpose and government. Russia, China, and Ukraine have similarly renamed non-committal, but they have received invitations to the Gaza Board of Peace. Boy, it's like an all-star lineup here.
Yeah.
By contrast, a swath of Middle Eastern and allied countries have accepted invitations to participate. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Turkey, and Pakistan are among those who have publicly signaled their intent to join the board. Several Central Asian and other non-Western nations, including Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Morocco, Kosovo, Armenia, Belarus, Indonesia, and Vietnam, also plan to join. Boy, he's racking up the $1 billion membership fees.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Support from this cohort reflects a shared interest in stabilizing Gaza and shaping the narrative around regional recovery. For some, aligning with Washington's initiative is also a strategic move to bolster bilateral ties and gain a voice in potential post-conflict arrangements. Morocco's decision, for example, comes amidst its recent diplomatic engagement across the region, even as public opinion at home remains wary of normalization trends. By the way, I just want to point out that $1 billion membership fee that all of these different world leaders and nations are allegedly being charged, no one knows exactly where that money's going. Who's getting that $1 billion membership fee? We'll read on. Israel's position has been particularly notable. Initially, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government criticized the board structure, saying it was not adequately coordinated with Jerusalem and objecting to the composition of executive committee, particularly the inclusion of representatives from countries seen as hostile to Israeli policy. Israeli officials indicated that these elements were, quote, contrary to its policy and declined to commit to participation. On the 21st, however, Netanyahu's office announced that Israel would join the Board of Peace, making a reversal amid intense international discussion and ahead of an expected signing ceremony tied to the World Economic Forum in Davos. The move reflects a strategic calculation by Israel to retain influence in shaping Gaza's future, even as the board's mandate appears to be broadening beyond its original Gaza focus. Notice, by the way, that no Gazans are a part of shaping Gaza's future on this board. Netanyahu's change of stance may also be aimed at balancing domestic political pressures with diplomatic imperatives. Critics within Israel, including hardline ministers who argued for unilateral control over Gaza, have warned that foreign oversight bodies could constrain national sovereignty. The Prime Minister's decision to participate suggests a willingness to engage with the board's processes despite these domestic tensions. But I want to end on this. Okay, you're putting together a board of peace. How is that going to work exactly? Okay, it's going to be this technocratic group that's going to make decisions on how Gaza is going to be rebuilt and moved into the future. Wonderful. Who sets the agenda? How are the votes cast? Who ultimately is in charge?
Who's the chair?
As the Board of Peace moves towards formal establishment, its contested reception highlights enduring fault lines in international diplomacy, competing visions of governance, and questions about the cost and control of peace building, and deep uncertainty about how best to end violence and rebuild society. The Board of Peace is slated to be formally constituted at a signing ceremony as early as Thursday, that's tomorrow, and the official list of member states could be released in the coming days. The board is expected to convene for voting meetings at least once a year, with decisions being made by a majority vote, one vote for each participating nation. Okay, so maybe if you have a big chunk of the countries in the region all voting one way, maybe they're making the decision, right? However, the agenda, what is to be voted on or not voted on, will rest with the board's chairman. Also, the board's chairman will have exclusive veto power. He will have, quote, the final authority regarding the meaning, interpretation, and application of this charter. So actually, all the votes are complete in a total charade because the chairman of the board ultimately has final say on what will be decided and how it will be decided and how it will be implemented. You're never going to guess who the chairman is. The chairman is President Donald Trump. What? But hold on. He's not just the chairman while he's president of the United States. The official text of the charter actually says that he's president for life. That's right. He's the president, he's the chairman of the Gaza Board of Peace for life, with exclusive veto power over every decision. He boasted on social media that it will be the greatest and most prestigious board ever assembled. But I think between you and me, when we think of Donald Trump as the chairman, we know what kind of chairman he's going to be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Yeah. Somebody in chat said Putin is laughing. No, he got an invitation.
Hey, you can give him $1 billion.
Yeah, why don't you show up? Yeah, he's got $1 billion to spare. Guys, we're going to be back to wrap up the show right after this commercial break. Don't go away. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. Like our Facebook page, it's facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. But if you're more of a listener than a watcher, get us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Thanks to Spotify. It's Too Late, Alan Mosley TV. Don't forget to get your tickets to the 8th annual It's Too Late live show.
Yeah.
It's coming Saturday, May 16th in beautiful Tennessee. Yeah. I don't know if Aaron's been here. I hope y'all are slamming the links. They're down there in the show notes. You got to get your tickets to the live event because I have it on good authority that there actually is going to be like we say there's going to be a live show and then we just say we're just fooling. But this year, this is going to be a live show. Yeah, we've trained for this. We put years into this to be ready for one. Yeah, and
big show.
You're going to want to be there Saturday night when me and Dave just go out in a blaze, man. Just you and me, buddy. Yeah. No, I don't censor you. You're not a mod. You can't just post links. You can't be signing people up to cat facts down there in the chat.
This is fun.
Oh my god, this is gonna be like a 40-minute episode. Look at us.
Yeah.
Look at us just blazing. Yeah.
Nice. Fight.
Yeah.
Fight.
Until now.
It's all falling apart.
Yeah. I think I'm just I'm blinded by your bright white shirt.
Yeah, I usually don't wear white. It's bothering me.
What do you think? After party?
Well, I mean, since we just worked a half day, I guess.
Yeah. What do you mean we?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
showed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do an after party. Sure, why not? But the after party's only on Twitch. Twitch.tv/AlanMosleyTV. You got to go there for the after party. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of It's Too Late, and we will see you next week. Oh yeah, we've got all this ice and snow coming. Oh, you did? Oh wow. Nice, dude. I think they said the storm has shifted north, so they're saying it's not going to be like multiple feet of snow. It's just going to be like some ice. But they also said it could just shift back because they don't really know. Yeah, dude, meteorologists could work for the government. They have no idea what they're doing. It's all bull.